All right, 25% scalp trades and how's it done? We'll get into that and more in this video. I try and keep them underneath 10 minutes. If you are in my signal channel, which is in the link below, you have gained over 50% these past couple of days. It's $20 a month to join the signal channel, and that would have made your money back, and you would have had signals all month and the next for free. But with that being said, this is NC Hammer Crypto. My name's Neil. Let's get into it. So we had last week about 26% increase from the entry back here around 3.4, and we pushed up all the way up to around 4.4. We sold. We wanted to see a little bit more support, and we had a re-entry here around 4.2 for a scalp trade, and I believe that was a push about 10% on top of that. So 35% within those two trades, and we sold around here around 4.5, and we let it drop down to hit this support level. It did test support and pushed upwards, and we had a re-entry right here around $4, and it pushed up to around 4.4. Now this is basing off of what Bitcoin's going to do. Bitcoin is trying to break over this downward trend line. And when you zoom out, it's a pretty strong trend line. However, it is trying to flirt with the 200 EMA here and try and hold support above that. We may see a little bit more of a push upwards, and then it may have its normal retracements. But bringing that to mind, always check Bitcoin. Doge is also trying to break over this downward trend line. We had a sell right around here, around 25 cents, I believe, and we haven't touched it since, but it is tapping for about the third or fourth time on this downward trend line, and if that breaks, we can see a push back up to around 24. And you say, Neil, how do you figure that out? Well, we take it from the top of the point to the bottom of the point, and you can see around 0.618. This orange line is roughly around where a nice healthy market will retrace. So I imagine we will see a push up into this area if we do see Bitcoin starting to push up. Quant is something I've been stacking bags with. However, if Bitcoin does start to push downwards, it can be a little detrimental for Quant, seeing as, we have this Fibonacci retracement from here to here. It's staying within this red zone, but if it breaks that, the next stop is around here, which would be the other Fibonacci from the top point down. And so we do want to see a little bit of support around 86. However, it can push all the way down to around 77 before trying to break over this downward trend line for a third time. And on that third tap, I imagine we would break it, retest, and take off if it does not just consolidate and then push up. If Bitcoin tends to hold and consolidate or also push up. XLM is starting to build a little bit of a base. It had the inverse head and shoulders where we had a selling point around 0.32 cents, and it has rejected that line and started to push down. However, we do want to see it cross over that 200 EMA. I believe if we see Bitcoin push up, we're going to see this push over the 200 EMA and push back up to 0.32. Toshi, I forgot to mention this one the other day, but it does have some pretty astronomical gains from where we did sell, and that's 35%, 11%, but we are starting to build a little bit of support, and when you zoom out, you can see that it's just the base of the all-time high, which is all the way up here, around 0.0024. So drop of 0, that's pretty substantial, but I believe we could see Toshi trickle down and do more of a cup and handle pattern like we've been waiting for XCN to play out with. BNT, this was just an astronomical entry point. If you're in the signal channel, we entered all the way down here and we haven't sold. You may have sold right around this turbulence right here at 100%, but we are currently sitting around 105%. It's good that we're getting consolidation. It's trying to stay healthy with the 200 EMA here. That is only on the 15 minute when you push it out to the daily. you can see that it's just the base of what it has potential to be, and it's going to get a little bit more resistance here in the 0.81 area. However, the next push up, you can see it's starting to test off of 0.97, $1.34, $1.58, and beyond. So just keep this one in mind, but also looking at the daily, we are very heavily overbought. We would like to see this around the 50 before getting a better entry point, but we could see this push up with the rest of the market. Torn has been in consolidation, starting to build a little bit of a base. It's still above this downward trend line. We're trying to get higher lows here. For example, like this, stabilizing and not breaking that. However, we could be retesting around this line, just judging off of the support that we see here, just like that. But it does have an all-time high of over $400, so $8.34 isn't bad. DNT, very rapid movements, consolidation, trying to break this 0.03 cents, but still holding stable above the 200 EMA and above this black upward trend line. When you zoom out, you can see 4 hour still trying to finish this diamond pattern. However, it does have 85% decrease and I believe 74% increase. So just keep that one in mind. XRP, XYO, and XCN. XRP, just keep stacking your bags on XRP. This one's going to take off massively. We are already in profit. If you entered around here, around $2, we are trying to hit that 36% for the swing trade, but I believe we could see a lot higher. XYO and XCN. XYO had a major pump and dump, but we're trying to push back over that 200 EMA. We are still within the fair value gap, these two dotted red lines. And overall, we are trying to push out of the cup and handle pattern, which may take some time, but I believe we're going to see it start pushing back up to the 0.023. And now XCN. XCN, major pump, but it's still in downward consolidation. Zooming out, since this is a little bit hard to see, 4 hour, still massive cup and handle, trying to break this downward trend line, and when it does, you're going to see a pump up at least 24%, 89%, and way higher. I believe we could come down and try and respect the 200 EMA still, and when that happens, we could see it push up and get squeezed in between the 200 EMA and this downward trend line before it breaks and pushes up. However, if it drops, I believe this is strong support on this black trend line on the lower side of this flag or downward wedge. And then GRT, LCX, and ABT real quick. GRT is still trying to hold above the 200 EMA, but does have some rapid movements. You can see that GRT push from here to here around 16%. However, keep in mind, since we were trading Prime more with signals, that Prime did make quite a bit bigger gains within that time frame, but that's just for scalp trades. Overall, GRT is a good bet. And LCX. LCX is still struggling, but it's holding support off of this black trend line right here. So if it can hold above that, we could see it start pushing back up towards 17 cents. And lastly, ABT garbage. So Grass token is something I always like to promote. It's free money airdrop to an account. You just let it use your broadband internet that you're not using. Everything's encrypted. Coinbase for airdrops and Mexi for the lowest trading fee platform. All the references are in the links below. Trading signal at the very bottom of all the paragraphs. Like and subscribe if you want. I will see you guys on the next one.